This video's for you, chaps magoo. Koma versus Shanna, Angry Omnath, and Hans Eriksson. A little bit heavy on the mana cost there, so I'm going to have to take the mulligan. Into a hand with ramp and 3 lands. Yeah, not sure we're going to do a whole lot with that one either, but there's no real reason to take it back. Hopefully we make some decent top decks. Seeing a turn 1 Hans Eriksson by the looks of it, Jeweled Lotus being played and cracked. Then a turn 1 Flamekin Harbinger by what is apparently an elemental tribal deck. Forgotten Ancient is what they tutor for. We draw into Mystical Tutor, so that could take us into a ramp spell, so yeah, I think Sky Shroud Claim would be good next turn. Not going to bother playing out the Sol Ring here. Okay, and that's why I didn't play out the Sol Ring, seeing a Manglehorn from Hans Eriksson. That would have blown up the Sol Ring immediately. That does bring it in tapped now, annoyingly. So we'll have to be careful what spell we go for. Playing a Yavimaya Hollow, which is relevant, so they'll be able to regenerate stuff. Casting 3 visits after that. Then an Explore for the Lands Matter player and playing an additional land. Shanna into play on their turn 2. So at the end of the turn we'll go for the Mystical Tutor, and seeing as how the Sol Ring will come into play tapped, we'll grab ourselves a Cultivate here. Oh, actually I've worked that out wrong, haven't I? Yeah, because the Sol Ring will come into play tapped, we actually won't be able to afford the Cultivate. Should have gone Sky Shroud Claim then, apparently. Play the Sol Ring out tapped anyway, play a land and pass. Hans Eriksson swinging in again, so obviously going to trigger, revealing no creatures this time. It is a Spider Silk Armor they show us. The Manglehorn goes in at Shanna, we get the Hans. Playing the Forgotten Ancient that they tutored for previously. And then we see a creature from the Celestia player, as you would expect, a Sylvan Ranger. We'll search for a basic, put it into hand. And then swinging in the Shanna over at the Hans Eriksson. Landing 2 points of commander damage. Okay, so we draw into Double Major, which we'll be able to copy the commander when we cast that. I think it's just Cultivate here. Even if that was a Sky Shroud Claim, we couldn't have done anything with the 2 untapped mana totaling 4 anyway, so don't feel too bad about my blunder last turn. Little bit of a token sub-theme here, so I have mixed up the basics because there is a Field of the Dead in this deck, as well as a little bit of Lands Matter stuff. Hans Eriksson coming into the red zone against us again, just revealing a Mountain this time, thankfully. So playing the 2 revealed cards, the Mountain and the Spider Silk Armor will give a +1 buff and reach to toughness. 3+ counters on the Forgotten Ancient can be redistributed here. And they do all get dumped onto the Flamekin Harbinger, probably a good idea because Forgotten Ancient is going to get more counters on it. Then a Zendakar's Royal landfall will make elemental tokens. Shanna plays Llanowar Elves, followed by a Whisper Silk Cloak, which could become a big threat the bigger the commander gets. Now landing some commander damage on us with the Shanna, now a 3/3. Okay, we get ourselves into Seagate Restoration, which will probably just have to be played as a land here. Well, before we decide, let's go for the Consecrated Sphinx. That lands. Yeah, we're against colours that might struggle with a Consecrated Sphinx, so I think I'm going to leave the Seagate Restoration in hand. Actually, that gives us an unlimited hand size. We might need that if the Sphinx sticks around for any length of time. Draw into a couple of lands straight away. Hans playing at Vizier of the Menagerie, allowing him to look at the top card of the library. Then deciding to swing into us with his 5 toughness creature, attacking in towards our 4 power creature. And that is a Tendershoot Dryad. So they're going to have to regenerate here. 2 toughness goes onto the Hans. We will deal the rest of the damage. And forcing our opponent to tap out there, leaving the Hans Eriksson in play. Tendershoot Dryad will trigger during every upkeep now. And those Saproling tokens are 3/4s with reach. Drawing a couple during our opponent's turn. A Kindred Discovery as well as a land. Kindred Discovery does trigger on the Serpent tokens. Now Rubble Hulk from Omnath. The Sphinx gives us a Parallel Lives. And looks like we're seeing an elf sub-theme from the Celestia player. Drove of elves, power and toughness equal to the number of elves you control. Whisper Silk Cloak gets equipped to the commander, now a 4/4. But they decide to hold that back. So we draw into a land here, plenty of lands to make. Board's looking pretty scary now, so I think we cast the Seaborn Muse and then we can hold up the Cyclonic Rift during our opponent's turns. So with that in mind, we'll play out the tapped Snowland. Not going to swing in at anyone because I don't want to make any enemies. We're all playing pretty passively here at the moment. Another land and a Serpent of Yawning Depths, which will make our Commander and Serpents unblockable. Could be relevant with the parallel lives. The Huns swinging in towards us again. And all the Saprolings swinging in at us as well. 3/4s with reach. They show us a sprouting Phytohydra there, which is pretty genius actually. They will fight that and make a copy of it immediately. No damage dealt to the Huns, so I'll just block some Saprolings here. And we'll take the rest of the damage. I'd rather Cyclonic Rift at the end of Shanna's turn if I can. So that's worth the 4 damage. Anger hitting the field now. That won't give everything haste until it hits the bin. Now seeing a Boseiju, as well as a Tireless Provisioner. Noteworthy that Omnath has a Skarg the Rage Pits in play here, giving +1/+1 and trample to a creature for 2 and a tap. But this turn seeing Angry Omnath hit play, and the plus counters from the Forgotten Ancient seemingly getting distributed about every turn. A Kodama's Reach and a Swiftfoot Boots for us here, thanks to the Consecrated Sphinx. Apostle of Purifying Light from Shanna. Pay 2, exile a card from a graveyard. Pro black, which isn't relevant this game. Then casting a Kodama's Reach after that. And Shanna swings in towards Angry Omnath. And landing the 5 points of Commander as you would expect. So at the end of the turn we'll go for the highly annoying play of Cyclonic Rift on our opponents. All of them will have to rebuild over the next turn or two. In response, the Apostle is going to exile our Mystical Tutor, that's fair enough. Alright, and we draw into Gaia's Cradle, that's excellent if we're going for our Commander this turn. So we'll get down the Tireless Provisioner first, because that's going to make treasures every time we make a land. Drop the Gaia's Cradle, and now I'm going to get Koma into play and hold control in order to hold priority. Sometimes this works, and I've known it not work before. But we need to hold priority here for our Commander Doubler. Okay, and of course it just comes straight into play, so not able to cast our Double Major onto our Commander there, annoyingly. So might as well just throw out the Swiftfoot Boots here. Not able to equip it, but we will untap during our opponent's turn. And then we'll swing in towards the Celestia player. I think they're the most likely to have removal that would be relevant to us. Mainly exile for the Koma. Just gonna discard the Double Major and the Kodama's Reach to hand size here. The Double Major is going to be useless to us if we can't hold priority. Being allowed to make our first Koma's Coil. And we draw into a Mana Vault and a land from the Sphinx. Manglehorn enters play once again. Blowing up the Swiftfoot Boots, which would have been really good on Koma. Forgot about the Manglehorn. Then rebuilding continues, the Spider Silk Armour into play. They do discard the Anger to hand size, so all of their stuff will have haste. Drawing into some removal in the form of Beast Within and Curse of the Swine during Omnath's turn. And down comes Omnath, dropping a land straight away, will make a 5/5 elemental. And then during the upkeep, Shanna is going to go for a Beast Within onto Koma. Yeah, we could go Mystic Reflection onto this, and then the Beast will enter as a Consecrated Sphinx, but I think we've got enough cards, and we've got a massive card draw spell in hand as well, so we'll just let that go, I think. Replaying Llanowar Elves and the Shanna, and passing over to us. So I think we'll make use of our mana here that we have untapped thanks to the Seedborn Muse. Let's blow up the Angry Omnath before that gets too out of hand. They will get a Lightning Bolt here, likely goes on our Tireless Provisioner. And that's exactly where it goes, probably the right target. Solemn Simulacrum for us this turn. Okay, so we've got a really good board state here, better than anyone else. I think this is a good time to go for the Seagate Restoration and finally get an unlimited hand size as well as a heap of cards in hand. So draw equal to the number of cards in hand plus 1. And got into some good stuff there. Sakashima can be a copy of our Commander. Got some protection in the form of counter magic. Let's play out the Mana Doubler here in Mana Reflection. And then with the 2 lands we've got left available, we can tap down for 4 and go for the Skyshroud Claim. Only got 2 lands left available for that thanks to all the card draw. And we'll play and crack a Polluted Delta, alright, only 1 island left as well. Throw down the Mana Vault, which will come into play tapped, but we can make use of it next turn thanks to Seaborn Muse. Throw out a Wood Elves. Not sure if... no, we can't get anything with Wood Elves, so that's just an extra body for us. So we'll just have to leave it at that, I think. Let's attack in this turn. And they took out our Consecrated Sphinx, so we'll continue to go in at the Celestia player, still scared of the exile. There you go, plummeting down to 12. Hopefully we'll be able to one-shot a few opponents next turn. Probably should have got down the Parallel Lives instead of the Wood Elves, actually. Meteor Golem being played by the Hans Eriksson. And pointing themselves at the Seaborn Muse, we could bounce the Seaborn Muse with the Mystic Confluence. I think I'd rather save that for a counter spell. So let's just use the Otawara here. We can bounce the Seaborn Muse back to hand with that. Already untapped all of our mana. Omnath's enchantment hits play again, the Zendikar's Royal. And dropping a land into that, that's a Kessig Wolfram plus extra power and trample. Then replaying the Forgotten Ancients, so still rebuilding from the Cyclonic Rift unfortunately. Whisper Silk Cloak back into play for the Voltron player. And replaying that Sylvan Ranger once more. Shrouded Unblockable going on to the commander. And there we see Apostle of Purifying Light again, with that awesome artwork I've never seen before. Okay, being surprisingly aggressive here, swinging in a 4/4 commander at us that can't be blocked. I mean, we can probably just go wide on them next turn anyway, so they might as well try and help their opponents out. Nothing we can do at the end of our opponent's turn, so we'll just get our own turn underway. Drawing into even more card draw in the form of Prime Speaker Zagana. We make a load of mana with our rocks thanks to the mana reflections, so we'll get out the Serpent of Yawning Depths and make things unblockable. Got 7 unblockable 3/3 tokens at the moment. Then do what I should have done last turn, get out the Parallel Lives as well. We want Kindred Discovery as well because we're going to draw cards when those things attack and enter. So obviously name Serpent with the Kindred Discovery. That isn't a May ability, so we're going to have to be careful with that actually. Might as well do some crazy stuff towards the end of this game. Sakashima coming into play as a copy of the Koma. And that counts as a Serpent entering, so we do draw a card. Gets us into Nissa. Tapping down our Gaia's Cradle for 26 mana. So throw down the Solemn Simulacrum. Don't think we have a basic to grab with that. No, we don't. Definitely want the Seaborn Muse in play again so that we can keep our things untapped. Eternal Witness can... we should really grab the Cyclonic Rift back to really push the point home, but bit of a mean play, so I'll just grab the Beast Within. Throw the Nissa Vastwood Seer into play, and we can flip it round this turn, haven't made a land yet. So I'll drop down the Shock Land in tapped, that will flip round the Nissa, and we'll just +1 on her. Just to rub salt in the wound for our opponents. That is a Field of the Dead we get into off the top. Comes straight into play with Nissa's +1. So makes us a couple of zombies straight away thanks to the Parallel Lives. We'll exile a couple of things with the Curse of the Swine. Get rid of the Graveyard Exiler, a couple of big creatures from Omnath, and then both of the creatures from Hans as well. So those are replaced by boars. And we'll just get through to combat eventually. Try and knock out the Celestia player here. And then the rest can go straight down the middle, completely unblocked. We'll send a beast token in that way as well. They can trade us, but it takes them down a creature. So then the Kindred Discovery triggers per Serpent that is swinging in here, which is a lot as you can tell. Got an unlimited hand size, don't forget, thanks to the sorcery from before. They do decide to trade us, the beast. Our opponents are seemingly being really good sports about all this. So Shanna just taking the damage and going down to 0 exactly. And we see Omnath go down to 17. Should be able to get both of our opponents next turn. We do have plenty of counter magic backup. Play out the Sylvan Library with the remaining mana. And now at the beginning of every upkeep we get 2 Koma triggers thanks to Sakashima. And each Koma trigger will give us 2 Serpents. Which means we draw 4 cards at the beginning of every upkeep, as well as get those tokens. So now we have to do some organising here. Hans Eriksson into play again, and they do swing in straight towards the Omnath player, who should really be leaving it alone. That flips them into a Cultivator of Blades, which has Fabricate too, so they probably make some servo tokens here. And they do get a couple of 1-2 haste reaches. Oh, they swung in at us with the Hans Eriksson. I thought they'd swung in to the right, so obviously relying on their regeneration will force them to use it. Omnath into play yet again. And once again making landfall, which will make a couple of elementals. Alright, so we've drawn into a boatload of cards this turn cycle. We have access to a Nyxbloom Ancient now, which is funny. And of the additional cards from Silver Library, we might as well put some lands on top. Try and keep from decking ourselves, no point in taking any life here. So we'll go straight through to combat. I'm pretty sure that we've got our opponents here. We just turn a bunch of tokens in sideways at each of them, as well as the Yawning Depths and the 2 Komas. Trigger Kindred Discovery a bunch of times. Might be worth putting a Laboratory Maniac or something like that in here. Not decking ourselves, fortunately for us. And our opponents graciously take it. Massive thank you to all 3 of my opponents for playing that out. They were just some randoms that I played with on Magic Online, so massive thank you to them for actually being a good sport. It's noteworthy that we could have done some crazy stuff there, like drop the Agent of Treachery, stolen something from our opponent, and then gone for Azuri's Predation and made all the tokens come down as a copy of Agent of Treachery, thanks to the Mystic Reflection. And then we could have stolen all of our opponent's tokens, all of their lands pretty much, thanks to the Parallel Lives. I imagine we would have stolen everything from them. That would have taken absolutely forever, and my opponents were patient enough there, so I didn't want to waste any more of their time. But some cool stuff you can do with Mystic Reflection and the Azuri's Predation. Just something to bear in mind if any of you want to build this deck. Massive thank you to the patrons for supporting the channel. You can do so as well through the link in the description below if you do appreciate these videos. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.